What is this tidyverse that everyone's talking about and that we'll discuss today? So here's a nice little representation of it. Let's load this and see what happens. Okay. So for this to work, you have to have it installed, which you hopefully do already have it installed, right? So if I run library tidyverse, I get a message that tells me about a bunch of packages that are being attached. And that shows us that the tidyverse is actually a collection of R packages. So add-ons to base R that can help us wrangle data, so get data in the format that you would like it to be. And what these packages or what the commands in the packages have in common is that they are designed in a similar way to make them easier to use. And what's also special about the tidyverse is that the command names are very descriptive, so that it's easier to remember which command you need to do a certain operation. Makes it just a bit easier to use than base R is what a lot of people say and what I would also agree with. So these are the packages that are included in the tidyverse. So when you load tidyverse, these get loaded. So ggplot2 is one that you're probably familiar with, even if you haven't used tidyverse. So that's a really good data visualization library or package. And then we have especially tidyr, which helps you get your data into the correct format, readr for reading in files, dplyr is something we'll use quite a bit for data manipulation. So again, getting your data in a correct format and making it easier to work with your data. Okay, so when you load the tidyverse, all of this gets loaded in automatically. You don't have to worry about loading it separately. What is tidy data and why would we want to use it? So here's a picture illustration, and the illustrations are all by Alison Horst, unless we indicated it otherwise. Tidy data is a kind of a standard format for your data frame to be in, for your data set to be in. In tidy data, each variable is contained in its own column. Each observation is one separate row, and each cell is a single measurement, so a single data point. And the example, maybe it's a little bit small, but maybe you can see it. So here we have 6 different cats. You can see that there's a column called ID, which is just a counter, 1 to 6. You can see the name of the cats: Floof, Max, Cat, Donut, Merlin, Panda. And then you can also see the color. That's another variable. So that's another separate column. So these are 3 separate columns. And then each observation in this is a separate animal, and each observation is on a different row. Okay, so that's what tidy data is. And why do we want this format? Why should our data be in this format? So this is the format that R works best with. So the commands in R work best with tidy data. That's especially true for plotting, so ggplot visualizations, also for running statistical models. So it's kind of a standardized, consistent way of formatting data. And as Hadley Wickham says, tidy data sets are all alike, but every messy data set is messy in its own way. So what that means for us is that if you figured out commands and tools that work well for one tidy data set, you can use them for another tidy data set as well, right? Whereas with messy data sets, and here's another little cartoon that tries to show that, when you have a messy data set, untidy data set that doesn't correspond to this format, that means that you might struggle working with that data. You don't have a standardized way of working with it, but you have to, as the cartoon says, reinvent the wheel with one-by-one approaches, right? And of course, if you have to spend less time on kind of data wrangling and preparing your data for stats or visualization, if you have to spend less time on that because it's tidy and you know how to work with tidy data, then you can spend more time actually thinking about the analysis, right?